Well, hi guys, welcome to the session. My name's Paul, this is Plan Z, and today we're going to be diving into, or I need to check, my rectifier bank. So I think the first one I've got finished was my boutique. I'm going to check that in a separate video, but I think I want to get this one out of the way because I think it's probably going to be the hardest. We're going to start off in a low gain, and if you've been following the sessions, you'll know we've got 3 patches here and then 2 bonus patches over here. So I've got 3 templates that I've used to build these patches here. We've got 2 stereo patches, they've been built from the same template, and then we've got a master patch which has got a low gain. Let me just turn up my gain pot. So gain pot on full, Les Paul neck pickup. So I've cleaned up the low gain that we have in here of the rectifier. It's actually a high gain channel, but you can clean it up. A gain pot on full there, like I say. So I'm just going to go to the back pickup. Now this is a medium gain with a gain somewhere around 35, I think, if I remember right. And then next to it we've got a high gain. Can't remember, we'll have a little look, but I think the gain's on about 50 there on the high gain channel. Now what I've got in 4 and 5 is, let's go into patch 4. So this is the same, we have a high gain and a medium gain. But rather than a low gain rectifier, we've got a JC120, and we set this up a couple of videos ago. This is that patch. I've just changed it slightly. I've added in a shimmer reverb. So I then duplicated that patch for patch number 5, because what we've got here is we've got a medium and high gain rectifier with the gains on around 35, and I wanted to do 2 low gains, but the first low gain was with the gain on 50, and the second low gain was with the gain on, 80, 90, something like that. So this is a low gain, the same as the low gain in here, only the gain here is at 5, and the gain in this patch over here is at 90. So let's go into one of these patches, but before we do, let's listen to 2 notes cab M. Now 2 notes cab M is sitting at the end of the chain here on my main outs, and I'm going directly out to cab M at line level. We'll go through the chain in a minute. We're actually going to turn everything off in just a second. But that's a Mesa Boogie closed back 6L6 412. And this is a Bogner 412 6L6. I'm going to go back to the Mesa Boogie. Very slightly different. So yeah, nice. I actually prefer the Bogner. Shall we stay on the Bogner? No, let's leave it on the Mesa Boogie for a moment. So what happens here is we have a noise gate either side of the amp, and this first noise gate here changes its threshold when I engage the boost. So let's engage the boost. The threshold goes from 50 to 60. And the boost there is just the tube screamer with no drive, tone on about -4, sorry, level on 100, got the bottom at 0, and I'm bringing a bit of direct mix, about 5. Let's turn that off and get into the EQ before the amp. Let's have a little look at that. So the noise gate afterwards is set the same, so the threshold at 50, and by the way the release is at 1 on both of them. That doesn't change at the moment. So the first EQ, I'm only using 2 EQ blocks, is I'm pushing the level by, let's just say, let me just check that. Yeah, so I'm pushing the level by 1, and what I've done there is I've boosted 125 Hertz by about 2, and then I've taken out 1 of 250, 6 of 500 Hertz. So that's -6 on 500 Hertz and -1 on 250, and then -2 on 1K, -1 2K, and 0 4K, but +1 at 8K, 0 on 16K. So it's the classic smiley face. And then in the next EQ, I'm just dealing with my high-low cut and a little bit of the highs. So let's hear what happens with this in a moment. But first, the settings. So it's a -1 dB on the overall low gain, +1 dB on the overall high gain. And I've gone +2 on the level. So let's just check that. What I'm going to do is turn the compressor off for a moment. In fact, let's just gain stage this. So let's turn off both the EQs. This is what the amp sounds like on its own with just the noise gates. Let's go to the amp now. We'll go back to the EQ in just a moment. It's kind of like a process you need to bounce between the two to kind of understand what's going on, or at least I find I need that. So here we've got the gain at the moment on 36, the sag on -10, so it's kind of medium. The resonance I've got at +5 and the level at 62. But I've taken quite a lot of the bass out. We're on about 17. Yeah, 17 for the bass, and I've cranked the mids to 100 in this patch. We're going to be looking at across the patches. It varies. The treble is at 60, and I've got my presence at 80. Let's pull that presence back. I think that's just going to cut through my mix a bit better. So I'm going to leave that on 70 there. So I'm just going to change that. And what I've done is I've got my amp changes assigned here. So when I can flick between the amps and have the 3 gain stages. So here I'm just going to go to my presence. I'm just going to turn that down to 70 on both the amps, just so they're consistent. Going to go back into the chain, and we're going to go to the high gain. Where I've got the gain, the only thing that changes is the gain goes to 50. You'll see the bass, the mids, everything else remains the same. Okay? Now the low gain amp is the amp that's next to it. So it changes between the medium and the high gain in the assigns there. And to get to the low gain, it just changes the amp. Where you can see we've got the gain on only 5. I wonder if I can just have that level a little bit more. Yes, I've got the level on 75, the resonance, sorry for my poor playing there, the resonance on +5. But here I've done different things with the mids and bass. So we've got the bass at about 45, and I've taken the mids out to about 30. But I've hiked up my trebles. The trebles are up on 90, and the presence is up on around 90 as well. Let's put on the reverb. So let's go back to our medium gain. So the amp that's next to it, and let's look at these EQs. So the first EQ is dealing with the high-low cut and dealing with the 4K. I take out a little bit of 3 dB on a Q of 4, and I'm going to be taking out 5K on a Q of 8, but taking only 2 dB. My low cut at 100, my high cut at 8. Let's go to the bridge pickup. Let's take it off again. So now it sounds really muffled. So this is where the EQ that's before it kicks in. So here, remember, we've got the +1 dB on the overall gain, but we're boosting the 125. We're taking out the scoop, the smiley face. We ran through the settings just a moment ago. Let's engage it. I think that can maybe come up by 1 dB. Yeah, I might leave that there. Let's just check this this one here, make sure that level's right when it goes on. Yeah, the level's good, it's just taking all the highs away. So let's put this one on. Okay, cool. So now let's put our compressor on. Now at the moment, and I'm going to be doing a separate video on compressors on this amp because we're going to go through, test out all the compressors. But at the moment I've got the Boss comp on and I've got it just barely touching it. I'm using a mastering compression. I covered this the other day, but I've changed the settings slightly. We've got the sustain at 50, the attack at 50, the level at 35. We're going to check that now. I boost the tone by 10 because it just helps the highs and lows. But the ratio is the 1.6 to 1 ratio. I'm using like a mastering compression on that. And I've got direct mix coming through at 30. So let's just see what happens when I engage it. Right, so it's on. And we can just barely feel it. Let's turn it off. You can barely notice it. It doesn't change the tone at all. Now I don't know if that's going to come out on the video, but in the room you can feel it. Hopefully you'll be able to feel it on the video. You might not be able to, but you'll definitely feel it when it's in a mix. So here, as we can see, we saw a moment ago we go out to 2 notes. So that's that patch. I'm just going to save, just in case I changed anything there. I can't remember if I did, but I'm just going to save it anyway. Now this button here, I've just got a solo boost on the amp. Right, so the only thing that changes between these patches is these two here, and they're set as stereo amps. So let's go to the heavier one of the two. So here we come in, we hit the noise gate, and the same thing happens when I hit my boost, but the boost I've got in here is not the tube screamer. I've changed it to the OD1, so I've got a slightly different tone. And then here we hit the first amp. Now this switch, I can select either of the two amps, but they're both rectifiers. They're both set more or less the same. They've both got their gain on 60. And I've done pretty much the same settings, except the mids are slightly less. Yeah, the bass is slightly less because I'm driving the gain more. I found when I drove the gain more, I wanted slightly less bass. Got the treble in the same place. Got the presence on 80 on this one though. Let's pull that to 70. Got on the boost. That's probably better, isn't it? Let's have a look at the other amp. Let's see where the presence is there. I'm just going to make it different, so I've put it on 60 just so it's different. Let's engage both of them. Yeah, okay, I like that. So let's just but look at what else has changed on the patch. So we've got the EQ working the same way. I've just pulled the frequencies slightly differently, but I'm still using the smiley face, okay? We won't go into it because I don't want to confuse you. Stay on track with the first patch as for kind of getting the core tone. From there you can kind of manipulate it yourself. But here I've done the same threshold and release on the noise gates. The high EQ, the one that deals with a high, is just here. So each of the amps has their own graphic EQ, and then I've got a parametric EQ doing the same thing, so drop off and a boost and a boost. And I'm taking out a bit more of 4K in this one, so by -4 dB, and this one, yeah, a bit more of the 5K. The other difference is the low cut is 125 in both the stereo patches, so it isn't too overwhelming when I'm doing my live looping, but the high cut is still at 8. Now the compressor I've used on this one is a stereo compressor, because obviously we're using stereo amps, and the settings are pretty much the same, albeit the level is slightly different. So we've got sustain at 50, attack at 50, we've got the tone up again at +10, we've got the ratio at 1 to 6, 1.6 to 1, and then the direct mix at 30 again, but the level's at 41. The thing to note here is when I split to stereo, the level drops by 5 cents, so from 41 to 36. Just to give a bit of space. If you were doing a loop, let's take a quick loop. Let's go. Just going to switch to the looper and take a loop. So if I do it like that, when I come back into the middle, my level is slightly louder than the stereo that's gone in. I'll come up the middle. Let's come up the middle. Let's put the boost on. Enough of that racket for a moment, so let's just disengage all of that. So yeah, that's what's happening there. Okay, I'm just going to save that because I think I might have changed something there. Okay, so we've done those. That's the stereo patches. So over here where we've got the JC120, we've got a slightly different strategy. We come in, we hit the divide, and here we've got a synth, so I can engage the synth. Let's go to the JC120, which is in a divide here. So that's the SY300 you're hearing there in the background. Let's disengage that. We can also switch to just the synth. Back to the guitar. Let's take the reverbs off for a moment. So what's happening here is the same thing with the noise suppressor, where when I engage my drive, and here we've got the tube screamer, and we're going into a medium gain with the gain on 36. Okay, it's the same layout of patch. I'm only showing you this so I can close it, go to the patch next door where I've done exactly the same patch, and all I've done is make this 2 low gain amps, so when it changes the amp within the amp block, so this one changes this amp here, what it's changing is just the gain. The gain is going from 50 to 90, but it's in a low gain. Let's just hear what that sounds like. Let's crank that. Now the other difference in this patch is I've changed the sag. It's the only patch I've done it in. I've given it a +7 on the sag because I just wanted to get that kind of older tone. So I'm just gonna close that patch off, and what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of loops using each of the patches, and I'll try as quickly as I can just to build up a little something that will kind of get loud, get quiet, maybe get loud again. Let's start off with Okay, so that patch there sits. Let's hear what this low gain sounds like driven. If that will sit in the same mix, be interesting to hear the difference. So 3, 4. Straight away I could hear when we went to the sorry, jumping around here. Let's change the view so we can see that it's the Recti JC. This one here, when it changed between the gains here in the mix, I think I want to pull some of that low end out. So I'm going to make an adjustment there that when that changes, I'm going to take that bass down to 10 from 16. So let's just make sure that does that. Let's go here. Yeah. Yeah, that bass is more balanced. So now we've done that, let's save that. Let's put that. Let's go to a high gain. So that's a low gain with the gain on 90. To the JC120. Try wrapping this session up. We've now just got the JC120 on. Okay, so we've got a loop in there. Do this is now we've got the rectifiers that've got the sag on them, and we're just going to go to that low gain where we got the gain on 50. Just going to pull my gain pot back a little bit to about 8, 7, 8. We're on the neck pickup. So now what I'm going to do, I think, is we're going to come in good and heavy. We're just going to go with this medium gain, which is the gain on 35 with a boost to end. Now, my last little tip for you is get out quick. When you're working on distortions, go in, do a little bit of work, get out. Save your ears or you'll destroy your ears. And what you'll end up doing is working for a long time trying to fine-tune something that you're not hearing properly because you've already destroyed your ears with the high gain. So I've probably about 20 minutes here, 25 minutes, and I would stop there now, partly because of my back as well, but also to save my ears. I'm on a high gain amp. After a little while, I'll stop being able to hear the intricacies. So what we're going to do is, just before we head off, that is the Mesa Boogie 412 6L6. On the 2 notes, we've now changed to the Bogner 6L6. I'm now going to change from the rectifier to the BG combo, where the first 3 patches are set up the same as the first 3 patches on the bank we were just in, albeit I haven't done anything to them. I've just changed the amp and I need to dial it in. So let's just see what the damage is. Let's change that to a different speaker, because we would have a Mesa Boogie EL84 on this, really. So I've got an open back EL84 412. Yeah, cool. Oh yeah, I set this one up as well, didn't I? So we've got it set up with a JC120. I just haven't decided what I'm doing for the last patch. So I'm going to be dialing this one in over the next couple of videos, so we'll be taking a look at that, and we'll probably revisit the Mesa Boogie once I've had a chance to listen to the YouTube video to see how far away I am. If you have any tips on how to dial in the Mesa Boogie, I've never played the rectifier, played through one, so yeah, any tips would be really helpful. Thank you. And if you've been subscribing, I'd like to say thank you for your support and curiosity. Hope you well and enjoyed the session. Take care.